Hi, I'm Tess. I'm glad you stopped by my kitchen today. I'll be making a lemon tart. It's a simple recipe. It doesn't take a lot of ingredients, a lot of time. I've already prepared and blind baked a sweet short crust pastry. It's in my tart pan. Let's get started. This is the crust for the lemon tart. It's a sweet short crust. It has been refrigerated overnight. It is now ready to roll and get ready to put into my tart pan. I need parchment paper on top. This means that I don't have to use flour. I just use the parchment paper and roll it in between the layers. Okay, I've rolled it out to a nice thin, so between 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to set it into my pan and get it ready to put back in the refrigerator. Once I put it in the tart pan, it will chill for about 30 minutes before I put it into the oven. I've put the crust firmly and pressed it into the edges, the corners, and the sides, trying to press into the fluting of the tart pan. I have an overhang. Now I'm going to go ahead. I still want to leave an overhang because of the possibility of shrinkage while it's in the oven, but I want to get rid of some of this, so I'm using my kitchen shears just to shorten it up a little bit. This is an 8-inch tart pan. You could use a 9-inch. I don't happen to have one. My next size up is a 10-inch, so I went with the smaller one for this recipe. I have blind baked it. That means that I prepared the pastry. I put some parchment paper. I crumpled up parchment paper, put it in here, and then I took my canister of baking beans. There are some ceramic baking beans in here and just extra dry navy beans and whatever, just so, because I have to have enough to fill the whole thing. So what I did is I put the parchment paper in over the raw dough. I filled this to the brim with my baking beans and put it in the oven to bake for about 15 minutes. 15 minutes. I took it out. I removed the baking beans and the parchment paper, poked it with a fork. You can see the little fork holes in there. Put it back in the oven to bake a little longer. Took it out, coated it with an egg wash, the bottom and the sides. Put it back in and baked it a final time to a nice golden brown, and then let it cool. So now this shell is ready and waiting, and my next step is to prepare the filling for the lemon tart. This recipe calls for just a couple of ingredients: 6 eggs, regular sugar, that's 1.25 cups, heavy cream, 3/4 of a cup. I have 4 lemons here. I zested one of them to get my fresh lemon zest using my zester. I am juicing the other 4. I've juiced all of them. I'm finishing up this last one. And then I'll strain the lemon juice to get out the pulp and the seeds, because the idea of the lemon tart, the curd in there, is that it will be very smooth. I'm going to take my eggs, crack them right into the mixing bowl, all 6. So I've got all 6 of my eggs in here. Quick personal tip for you, it's preference, it's not necessary, but you know those little white, I think of them as umbilical cords that are inside the egg attached to the yolk. I remove them. I go in and I actually fish them and separate them and pull them out, especially when I'm doing a tart with a custard, a curd like this, because when you cook those, they can tend to toughen up, and I want this tart filling to be as smooth as possible when it's finished and I put it at the table. So personal preference, a little tip, do it or not do it, that's totally up to you. I'm not going to use the mixer for this step because I want to blend the eggs together, incorporating as little air as possible, because when I put this in the oven, The more air there is, the less smooth the filling will be, and air bubbles will rise to the surface. So just a gentle blend here. Now I'm going to add the remainder of the ingredients all to the bowl. That was the sugar. This is the heavy cream, the lemon juice, and the lemon zest. By the way, you like my little Cookie Monster? I got that for the grandkids so that when they're a little older and they come to hang out with Grandma, when they see this mixer come out and they see Cookie Monster, I want their question to be, Grandma, are you making cookies? Okay, back to business. Put my paddle on. I'm going to put this on low speed and blend it just a little bit, just so it's mixed. And then I'm going to set it aside for 10 minutes so that whatever air is in there can come to the surface. I'm waiting for the lemon filling to set and to let the air bubbles come to the top. I have gotten about 10 ounces of fresh strawberries. If you buy a typical size container, that's 16 ounces. So I've used not quite a full container, depending on the size of the berries. Some of them I halved, some of them I quartered. It just depended on the size. And some of them I just left a little bit of the top on for a little bit of texture, because these are going to go on the top of the finished tart and also along on the side as a serving. So when I say I believe food tastes better when it's pretty, I mean it. Next, I'm going to take 2 tablespoons of sugar, sprinkle it over the berries, and limoncello. Yes, this is an alcohol, so it is optional. You don't have to put it. It's only a tablespoon, so I am. And then just mix it all together, and then these are going to sit and macerate, and that basically means this is going to get the juices flowing. The sugar is going to dissolve, and it's just going to make a really yummy, sweet little glaze over the berries. Almost done. So again, because I'm serving this to company, and honestly, even if I wasn't serving it to guests and it was just for me or me and my husband or me and one of my children visiting, I would still make it as pretty as I could. So I went ahead and used this little ladle spoon and skimmed off some of the air bubbles that were sitting on top, just because when I get this finished, I want that curd inside the tart to be as smooth as possible. So now we're going to strain it. This will take out the lemon zest and some of those thick globs, for lack of a better way to put it, of the eggs that sometimes get in there. Normally, I would actually put this empty shell on the sheet in the oven. I pull out my rack, put this in the oven, and then pour this there, giving me less chance of spilling or having an accident. Because I want you to see this part, I'm going to do it here, then say a quick prayer and keep my fingers crossed that when I put it in my oven, I don't have any mishaps. When I strained this, I put it into a pourable container, and it is really, really smooth. I have a little gap of crust that came off after it finished baking, so I just need to be careful I don't go too far. So this would have been enough for a 9-inch tart. I have extra because of that, and I am not going to push my luck. So, okay, what am I doing here? Yes, I have a blowtorch, and I am just going around and checking for a couple of little air bubbles that I don't want, and I am popping them. Call me ridiculous, but like I said, for me, it is about the beauty. I didn't actually have many air bubbles, so we are good to go, and this thing is going in the refrigerator. It made it. It's safely in the oven. I will bake it for about 35 minutes. I will check it at 30 minutes just in case my oven may be baking hot today and I may need to take it out at 30, but otherwise I'm planning on 35 minutes. And just to correct you, it did not go in the refrigerator. It went into the oven. Okay, so what have I been doing? Well, this is baked. It took about 40 minutes by the time it was done. I did it to the point where there was just a slight jiggle. About this much of the center was still jiggly, but it did not ripple all the way out. So I took it out while there was still that jiggle, and it will finish setting. These are little meringue kisses. They are getting ready to go in the oven now. They have egg whites, regular sugar, and I just beat them together to a really stiff peak and for the sugar to dissolve within the egg whites. Pipe them in here. They're going in the oven at a low heat for an hour to an hour and a half, and they will do a slow bake. And I am going to decorate the top of the tart with them for dinner this afternoon. Here it is, lemon tart in a sweet short crust pastry, garnished with meringue kisses, fresh strawberries that have been soaked in limoncello and a little bit of sugar, and ready to enjoy with my family and friends. I hope you give it a try. From my kitchen to yours, take care.